Hey everybody, Seth and Ryan here from Go to Market Advisors, bringing you another new series on what we're calling Executive Pipeline-isms and how to combat them. So if anybody has been in sales leadership or a sales rep or a sales manager, all the above, we've all sat through pipeline meetings where executives will tell us things and we all kind of roll our eyes. This is meant to be poke fun at that, but also to talk through how do you politely combat them to be more effective in your day to day? Because they are isms as a kind of a joke, but they do affect how you go to market and also could have a big impact on your business. Alrighty, pipeline-ism number 3, going off of what we talked about last time of the pipeline coverage multiple. We're now going to talk about the pipeline coverage value. And for anybody, again, who's been in sales, this is one that kind of drove me up a wall around the idea that I need to have X amount of dollars in coverage when, as a sales rep, there's some deals that are a sure thing, there's some that aren't. So for those who've suffered through that, well, you have to have $2 million in coverage on your pipeline. We're empathizing with you, but Ryan, why don't you talk about some of the damages of that and how to combat them?
Yeah, I think the main thing is that when companies over-index on a 3x pipeline or a value in this example, like you need to have X dollars, it's the risk from a manager standpoint, and then as a manager coaching a rep, the risk is what is it comprised in, right?
Yeah.
As you think about your pipeline is a number of opportunities you're working. You're going to close some relatively small percentage of those, but the composition of that's really what matters. So if you look at this example we have here, where you've got, let's say in this example, kind of the average deal size is about 100 grand, but we have some $200,000 opportunities, some $300,000 opportunities kind of peppered in, which in some cases is actually inflating the volume that we're working from. And so depending on the value of the deal, if I lose that 300K or the 200K or some of these other ones, I actually have a lot less pipeline than I might need. And so it's important to consider the value of the opportunities, not just the total value of them summarized. So as you think about managing this as a manager, you need to pay close attention to those deals that represent a large percentage of the pipeline, because that's where your risk lies. If you win those, that's great, that's a bonus. But if you lose them, all of a sudden your pipeline coverage is actually way less than you might have wanted it to be. So I like to recommend that you look at both value in terms of amount, but also volume as a consideration. So if you're going to close, in this example, 1 out of 4 deals, and I need to close a couple of deals, I probably want 12 opportunities, give or take. So if I don't have 12 opportunities, I need to be, as a manager, more confident that those bigger deals are gonna close, because it exposes us to risk, because replacing them is going to be very difficult.
Yeah, I think the other piece of that is where are those larger deals at? I think depending on where they're at in their cycle and their buying journey, if they're later stage, yeah, maybe it's a coin flip between you and a competitor. But if those early stage deals, let's say that it's a stage 2 demo for your company and it's $300K deal, that has a lot of risk to me, because the other component to this is pipeline-isms is reps just arbitrarily put amounts. The amount of time that they really think through and can able to actually assess the deal value of that account is 5% of sales reps I've ever seen actually be able to do that well. And so you should disqualify that, not disqualify, discredit that a little bit as you're thinking through the value of coverage that this sales rep might have. Is there I don't think there's any silver bullet to anything in pipeline, but is there like a number of deals, and we'll take this one as like the average deal cycle is 100K, somebody who has a $500,000 quota for the quarter, is there a silver bullet number of deals that you want? What's kind of your management style on that?
I like to do kind of the simple math of, if I'm closing 1 out of 4 deals, then I probably want the number of deals I need to win to hit quota times 4. Okay. I mean, now, again, I think it's unrealistic to expect a steady state. I think all of us hope that we have demand gen engines that are just pumping in new opportunities every day. It's probably unrealistic. And so that's going to ebb and flow over time. So later in the quarter, obviously that that volume would go down. But I think that's kind of what you're hitting for. My preference as a manager is I would over index on volume versus value. I would so much rather have a rep have 3 or 4 more opportunities to swing at the ball than to have one really big deal. I know as organizations, sometimes they get over-indexed on the kind of shiny object of big dollars. There's nothing wrong with going after a big piece of business, but it's a huge risk if you lose it.
Yeah,
So,
big dollars, big risk, and timelines never align to what you want. So that
no.
quarter end date that you're projecting is sure as hell not going to happen at a big organization. And that's where I think, to your point, we need to really assess. But I think on their coverage multiple and then the coverage amount that you need, there is no silver bullet. I
Yeah.
think this is something as a leader that you need to really make sure that you're putting the right foot forward with your rep, because this can piss a lot of reps off when they're talking about, you need X when they've consistently hitting quota. So this is also an exercise that you should maybe table depending on the maturity of the rep and the consistency of that rep. If it's a newer rep and you're trying to help them understand what they need to be effective, different conversation. If it's a more tenured person, a surefire way to piss them off is to talk about their pipeline coverage. So just be mindful of that as a manager.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing, just kind of the key kind of like um, cheat codes for management of pipeline. Look at volume more so than value. Ensure that the value that is represented in the opportunity amount is realistic. If you do $50,000 deals and all your rep has every deal that's greater than 50,000, that's not real. So
Right.
make sure that it aligns with your average deal, give or take, within a varying degree. And then really encourage the volume of deals. I think for most my career, and certainly what I've seen with clients, is everyone would rather have another swing at the ball than have a really big deal. I think you're much more likely to close one more deal than you are to close a really, really, really big one. And so
Yeah.
focus on the volume game. I think that's going to serve most people better than chasing kind of the shiny
Yeah,
object of a large value.
for sure. Awesome.
Stay tuned for more.